Marcus Brownlee unjustly under fire. Instagram wants to help us create better content. TikTok is finally taking on Google search ads. Thank you. And poor X is supposed to pay more money to the Brazilian government. This is the Act 18 show. Hey, I'm Jason, faith-based entrepreneur marketing geek. Timestamps and sources below, along with a link to today's sponsor, our funnel template pack. It has our top converting funnel page templates. It also has a done-for-you email marketing campaign and course framework to help you go from idea to sales as quickly as possible using 100% free software, linked up in the description. Now, of course, timestamps below. This first one is a little drama-ridden, and I will actually leave a link below to a longer version that takes a much deeper dive into this story because I wound up talking like 30 minutes for that one. So we'll just make that a separate episode. So real quick recap, Marcus Brownlee, sitting at 19.5 million subs for a tech review channel, recently released an app called Panels. And long story short, the feedback was atrocious, and I would say just downright mean in some instances, because this app is designed to essentially connect people who really care about having custom wallpapers on their devices with artists who make custom wallpapers. And so Panels splits that profit 50-50. And unfortunately, Marquez thought that this was going to be really well received, and people just seem to be obliterating it. Like, the reviews on the Google App Store are absurdly low. And I think there's some good lessons learned, but just a quick rapid fire of the top 5 reasons I've seen people are upset. Number 1, they don't like the privacy permissions the app asks for, like location and tracking in other apps. Of course, that's for advertising, but users don't really care. Number 2 is the fact that on the free version, you can only get 1080p images. So most people just look at that and say, it's kind of useless. So why would I download a 1080p image? That's going to look terrible on my super cool screen. And then number 3, which kind of is warranted, is complaining that the app was unpolished and felt unfinished in some instances. You know, done is better than perfect. The development mantra kind of, I guess, backfired on them, but they're working hard to get that fixed apparently. And then number 4, people don't like the pricing. People are really upset that it's $11.99 a month or $50 a year. Of course, in the video I link up in the description, I actually go through a pretty detailed pricing breakdown from a revenue perspective, and $50 a year for this app is actually incredibly reasonable, especially for users who really care about wallpapers and customizing their things. And then, of course, number 5 is more pricing complaints. Now, if I were to bottom line the whole fiasco, essentially it's one of those things where you launch a product to a group of people who aren't actually the customer, and instead of them recognizing that, oh, that's cool, but that's not for me, they complain that it's not for them, which is a little strange. It's kind of like walking into a Nordstrom and then complaining that the pricing isn't like the Gap. I don't know, that was the silly example I could come up with, but I'll leave a link in the description to a super deep dive video that goes into the intricacies of this and really what it means for us as creators, because as creators and entrepreneurs, of course, we approach this a little differently, and I think we all have a lot more sympathy for him, because if you've actually had to go through the arduous process of developing an app or developing a product or service, you just have a lot more leeway for other people who have tried it for the first time. So that does it for Marquez. Let's go ahead and jump into some rapid fire things here. Number 1, X apparently is $1.5 million away, or $1.9 million away from being back in Brazil. Long story short, if they pay that, they get to come back to Brazil. Yay for them. And Meta had their Meta Connect event, which showcased some awesome new AR glasses, went through some things on how Facebook and Instagram might change with the advent of AR and VR. And then they also had some pretty cool ad updates that I did not have time to dive into for this episode. So I'll include those hopefully in the next episode, like a chatbot you can actually just get from Facebook and embed on your site. It's actually really cool. Now, something I am super excited about is TikTok. I kind of funny saying that. And that is because TikTok is releasing search-based ads. This is fantastic, minus the fact that they're supposed to be banned in January. But putting that aside, Google Search has been a unique ads platform for business owners because it allows us to target people who are looking for our product or service right then and there, right? Like someone types in haircut near me. They're looking for a haircut. Let's put our barbershop ad right there, right? Or they're looking for a veterinarian, or they're looking for gaming headphones, whatever it might be, right? And so what's really cool is TikTok has released some data saying 57% of their users use search. Okay, awesome. And then something like 20 or 27% of their users use search within the first 30 seconds. That is where I'm really excited about, because what that means is someone's deciding to go to TikTok to look up whatever they need versus going to Google. And of course, Google's been like the undisputed champion, right? And yes, Instagram does have stats like this as well. People do go to Instagram to search for products and services, but Instagram does not give us keyword targeting ability, right? Like Instagram is all interruption-based marketing. And that's what's so exciting, because over on TikTok, we have a social media first platform. We also have a user base that's actually using search, which means we can create ads that don't have to be super over the top to grab attention. Facebook and Instagram ads, I still think, are arguably the most powerful, especially if you're selling a digital product. But it takes a really long time to figure it out because it's interruption-based marketing, right? Like you have to make an engaging ad that grabs attention. You don't really know if they're looking for your product right now. Like maybe they're your ideal customer, but it's 3 o'clock on a Thursday. They don't care. But if you showed them the ad later on when they're searching for it, they would care, right? And so what's really cool about this is TikTok does have enough of a user base in a younger demographic that it might actually be able to long-term compete with Google, right? Because as that demographic ages, they're most likely going to continue to use the platform that they grew up with, right? That's kind of what we see with Facebook and Instagram and YouTube as well. And so that's really cool. Just the small little asterisk of TikTok being kicked out in January. So as long as they're not, then we should be okay, which is interesting because this next one that TikTok is doing, they're acting like they're not going anywhere. They just released the ability for influencers of all video types to have subscriptions. So I guess they watched the Made on YouTube event a couple weeks ago, and they're like, oh shoot, YouTube's going to give people like paid memberships and communities. We should do the same thing. And so TikTok just did it first, right? They actually had that for a certain type of live streamer, but now I guess it's for everyone. But again, if you're just getting started, you're probably trying out different social media platforms. Maybe you want to create a membership or a private community. If you really don't want to use something like Systemi, linked up in the description with our free templates, shameless plug, then YouTube's probably the best place to go because it just eliminates all of the tech headache, right? Like YouTube just works. People know how to use YouTube. The membership function isn't necessarily all the way fleshed out yet on YouTube, but I think it's a better bet, especially because again, TikTok might be going away in January. So make sure you download the Lemon 8 app and grab your username just in case ByteDance decides to move everyone from TikTok over to Lemon 8 to kind of get around that ban. I'll leave a link in the description to a previous story that goes through what's going on with TikTok, why they have to sell, and then of course what the heck Lemon 8 is, and why you should actually download it just in case TikTok leaves. Now, Instagram has decided to give us some awesome new tools and insights to help us grow our accounts because we all know their algorithm is super confusing and seems to be changing every other month. But first, they decided that we as creators don't own the stuff that we make. Yeah, so Instagram has decided now if you use their app to create a reel and then you download it, they're going to add this to the end. Of course, if you didn't hear anything, that's because I got copyright strike and had to remove it. So one more time, just in case that wasn't annoying enough. And so the ridiculousness of this is it just feels so very petty because I know that Instagram knows that a lot of content that's uploaded to Instagram is edited with CapCut, which is, of course, what is a soft made by ByteDance, which owns TikTok, right? And so what CapCut does is if you export it and you're not sending it to TikTok like they want you to, then they add a watermark at the end, which of course a lot of creators wind up cutting off. So now Instagram has decided they're going to do the same thing. They're just going to make it harder on creators by adding a noise. And so while I do understand Instagram and ByteDance and TikTok, they've both spent arguably hundreds of millions of dollars, making their platforms and creating tools for creators so they can put content on their platforms. At the same time, it just feels really petty to just add these things at the end because it's kind of like, well, you used our tool, so we get to watermark your content, right? And this just goes back to what I like to tell all my students and clients is you need to own your entire production process. Because at the end of the day, as awesome as the tools Instagram gives you are, as awesome as CapCut is, if you're not paying for a tool, then you're giving up control of your content. And this move by Instagram is a perfect example of that. Of course, I do understand it is annoying to use a third-party application and then upload the video to Instagram and then try and match the music. I totally get that. It is a pain. It can be a pain. But at the same time, as long as you're using one of these apps, and even YouTube has their editing thing too, right? If you use their software, they want you to stay in their walled garden. They don't want you taking that content and then posting it to essentially their competitors. So at the end of the day, yeah, it is annoying to pay for Canva or whatever other software you wind up using, but it is worth it to make sure that you actually own your content. But Instagram did balance this out by giving us a new feature called Best Practices. I did try and look on mine. It's not there yet, so I can't give you a demo. But here's some screenshots from Meta showing that essentially it will look at your account and then give you feedback on like what time you should post, maybe what type of content to make. And I'm really hoping that this is more valuable beyond like something we see on some of the other platforms like YouTube when they give you insights where it's just super generic advice and you're like, thanks YouTube, I could have figured that out myself. So hopefully this just adds at least a little bit of transparency on what the heck to make so the algorithm likes our content, right? If you just search like Instagram algorithm updates here on YouTube, you will just get a plethora of people who are trying to figure it out. And it's really frustrating because it's one of those things where nobody really knows. And Instagram does this thing where they tell certain creators, and then you have to know which creator to follow in order to get that information, which I've learned. So it's a nice addition that will hopefully at least help us kind of figure out what on earth to post to Instagram. So thank you so much for watching. Sincerely hope you got some value out of this episode. Comment below with your questions and feedback, stories you wish we would have covered, or stories that you're just kind of like, I don't really think I need to know that all that much to continue moving my channel and business forward. So hit that like button, subscribe for more episodes just like this one, and until the next, keep building the business you love.